All right, we're going to get started. We're always asking ourselves and other people around us certain questions. Uh, well, what if we could just go back and change things? Well, what if I was able to replay or relive certain times or events or go back to a certain age and start all over again? Well, we know we can't change yesterday and we can't change tomorrow. We have today. Yesterday, can't fix it. Tomorrow, we don't know what's coming. Therefore, live in today. There's an old saying that says, yesterday is gone. Nothing can change it. It's unclear what tomorrow shall bring. Therefore, all we truly know is the moment we are in. And that is why it is called a gift. That is why it is called present. Had we the ability to change anything in the past, anything at all, we would be so busy going back and fixing what we thought was wrong that we would never live in today. We would be looking back and constantly going back and tweaking and adjusting, and we would never live in today. Hezekiah, if you'll recall him, he was a king of Israel, and he was told he was going to die. He was a righteous king. Prophet came to him and said, what have you? And Hezekiah said, I'm upset. I got this going on. And prophet says, all right, God says you're going to get another 15 years. It's a little more complicated than that. So he got another 15 years. He took that as a sign of God's favor. And then, in pride, he made a mistake. He made a mistake that caused Israel to fall for their treasures. King Hezekiah let the wrong people in to the wrong place. So we're going to look at the question, why doesn't God just tell us his plans so we can help and go along that way? Genesis 16:1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children. And she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. Abraham, the friend of God, was given a promise by God that he would have an heir, and that his wife would be Sarah, and that by this heir he would be a great nation. Sarah, Abram's wife, knowing she is barren, knowing she cannot have kids, knowing everything that she knows, decides to help God out. And that was awful nice of her, wasn't it? I mean, we all know God needs us to help out. None of this could have happened if it hadn't been for us helping God, right? Well, but before we're too hard on Sarah, we got to remember that many of us are exactly the same. Well, God wants me to do this, and the only way it's going to get done is if I do it this way. I can't see how it's going to get done if I don't do this. I mean, apparently God told me to do this, so I've got to get it done. And then we go off in our own power and in our own thinking, and we try to get something to happen, and it fails. We're all guilty of scheming and dreaming, all of us. But it wasn't just Sarah that was the problem here. The other part of this is Abraham, who's not exactly innocent in this situation. He knows this is wrong. He knows. He knows God promised him an heir. He knows God personally. Yet he thinks this is the way to go. Or perhaps he sees a pretty little maid and decides to humor his wife, right? Humor his wife and have a little fun at this late stage in life. He's almost 100. Sarah's almost 90. Oh, I'm sorry. At this point, He's 90 and Sarah's 80. We're not 10 years later with Isaac. He's 86 years old, so Abraham, at 86, he should know better, shares complicity in this because he was like, yes, dear, if I must. Whatever the case, there's plenty of blame to go around in this incident. Now, please note what Sarah says here. She says, the Lord restrained me from bearing. That means God kept me from bearing a child. It's God's fault. God told me I would bear a child, but he is keeping me from having one. Now, how often do we just do this very thing? God says, do this, but God won't let me do it my way. God said, do this, but the road's blocked. Here's the deal. God is not the author of confusion. He has three answers: yes, no, and wait. He does not go against his word, nor will he act contrary to everything you've ever known about him just to help you out with a little problem. God has a plan, and his plan is the absolute best way to do it. It's the absolute right way to do it. Just as it was for Abraham. Yet Abraham and Sarah thought God had forgotten them and that he was incapable due to their limitations. They didn't limit God, they're limiting themselves and God's ability with them. And that God himself needed a boost up from them, that he couldn't do it without them. Genesis 16:3. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in a land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. What could possibly go wrong there? And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress, Hagar's mistress, Sarah, the one that she worked for, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. Sarah took Hagar, gave her to Abram to be a wife. Everything can go wrong from that situation, and everything does. There's no way in the world that a normal woman can share her man. No way at all. It's just a fact. If she wants to share her man, then he's not really hers after all. So Hagar goes in with Abraham, and I can almost see Sarah go from happy that she is going to give her husband an heir to totally devastated when Abram goes through with her plan and gets into Hagar's bedchamber, and they do the things that you do to get pregnant. I don't know if she didn't think Abraham would go through it, or if Abraham couldn't go through with it. I don't know. So while Hagar and Abraham are having a little fling, Sarah's outside, and I mean outside of the circle. She doesn't know what's going on, and she's waiting. Now she's thinking. Her mind is full free fall. And I'm betting Sarah's not a pretty sight in her anger, in her state of mind. And I'm also betting that she went on from full on happy, Abraham is getting an heir, to full on destroyed, Abraham is getting an heir, and she had nothing to do with it. When the reality of the situations caught up with her, I'm willing to bet she was devastated. Not to mention that her husband is in there with another woman, touching, laughing, talking. she allowed it. And you know it's eating her up. You know it. She has just invited another woman into her husband's full life. She gave him a wife. So Hagar is now entitled to everything. And Sarah is slowly, but oh so quickly, losing control of everything. She's probably losing her mind over it. Now Hagar, when she saw that she had conceived, now despised Sarah. For with the heir that she's pregnant with, she had taken preeminence in Abraham's life. She was the one that gave him all that he ever wanted, that fulfilled God's promise. And she and her heir, her son, was the one that was going to own everything Abraham had. She was now wife number one. And that's just the way it is at that point in time. The oldest son got it all. And now Hagar was the mother of the oldest and only son. How soon the best laid plans of men and women fall apart. Because that's what just happened. Their plans are about to fall apart because they did not account for the emotional, the human side of things. Abraham, for a half hour, had fun in a room with a strange woman. And now Abraham gonna pay for it. Wife's unhappy, he's about to be unhappy too. The wife of his youth is about to let him have it. But Abram said unto Sarah, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. So if you go back to the previous verse, hang on, let me find it. I skipped right over it somewhere. Give me a moment. I don't have it. Okay. My apologies. So Sarah is upset because she is despised in the eyes of Hagar. Sarah is no longer wife number one. Sarah is still Abram's best friend, though. So she goes to him and says, I'm despised in her eyes. This is your fault. This is your problem. You need to clean it up. She forgot her involvement. She forgot that she was the impetus behind this. But Abraham, he was a bit of a coward here. Sarah had a plan. He had all the fun of the plan. And when it came time to clean up the mess, he says, Yep, it's a mess. Go clean it up, dear. Sarah, being a jealous woman, then dealt harshly with Hagar and caused her to run away. Sarah engineered this whole thing to help the will of God come to fruition, to help the plan of God be true. And she was displeased with the results. Instead of finding a way to deal with the results that she wanted, she's now going to make Hagar's life a living hell until Hagar flees from her. So Hagar gets out in the wilderness, runs away. Genesis 16:7, and the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to shore. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress, Sarah. So God sends the angel to Hagar, who has been chased off because Sarah realized that she's a jealous woman. The angel of the Lord was sent, and Hagar was now a part of Abraham's family. Abraham and Sarah made a commitment to her. And God will not have her, Hagar, or Ishmael abandoned. There's a righteous fire God has for those who are ill-used and abandoned. God will forgive the sin Absolutely. He's going to forgive Abraham's sin. He's going to forgive Sarah's sin. But there are still consequences, and we must deal with them. Sarah was trying to forget the problem she had created, even though she is condemning two people to death. Sarah and Abraham were not exactly the Old Testament saints here, are they? The angel of the Lord said unto her, Hagar, return to thy mistress and submit thyself under her hands. The angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. The angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. So the angel tells her to return home and all will be well. And I'm betting Abraham received a message or scolding from God on this too. Hagar shall bear a name, and his name shall be Ishmael, and he shall be a great nation. So when you ask God why he just doesn't tell you his plans. Think back to this accounting here of what happened when he did. We, Abraham and Sarah, we, the humans, we got involved. We thought God needed us to make this happen today. We don't know God's timetable. We don't know God's plan. We, the humans, got involved and we messed things up royally. But there's something else I want you to bear in mind. Another situation, but it's a part of the situation, a judgment, a pronouncement of that situation that we need to bear in mind when we do things. God, the angel of the Lord, God sent the angel, and the angel said, go back to Sarah. Submit yourself to her, go back. He made Hagar go back, not because of Hagar, nor to punish Sarah. He made Hagar go back for one simple reason, and this is what David was told when he sinned with Bathsheba. 2 Samuel 12:14. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. The child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. David lost his son when he sinned with Bathsheba. Abraham's going to keep his, but they had to take Hagar back and they had to treat her like one of the family. They had to do something. They could not allow the enemies of God to blaspheme. They cannot allow God to be a laughing stock. Abraham and Sarah have given the enemies of God room to blaspheme God. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah for their sin, but here he is letting Abraham and Sarah get off scot-free. No, we can't have that, can we? No. This is why Hagar had to return. This is why Sarah had to woman up and get over herself. Sarah, she messed up. God was not going to let the people of the world use this against him. And I truly think we don't consider that part of our actions seriously enough. If David and Abraham embarrassed God, how much more are we going to? If they could do it, and God called them out on it, he did, why do we think he won't call us out on it? If our service is less than it should be, if our sin is too much and keeps people from coming to God, if our testimony is less than he wants, there's three things we're going to take away. One, God does not allow us to go back because in our finite minds, we would constantly go back and fix what we thought was wrong, whereas in reality, God allowed it all. Therefore, it has to have a purpose. It must be right. Two, God does not tell us his plans. We would mess them up to make our vision of his vision come true. That's truth. Three, God does care if you sin. It does affect more than just you. The cry of the church is, well, what we do in the privacy of our homes doesn't matter. Yet that is denounced, decried, and debunked right here. God could not allow the sin of Abraham and Sarah to go uncorrected. And Abraham was the friend of God. He did not allow David's sin to go unchecked. And he was the man after God's own heart. He did not allow Abraham to go uncorrected. And Abraham was a friend of God. God has a standard, and that standard never wavers, never varies. It's always the same. And as a Christian, 24/7, you're on the clock. Sin is sin. It affects many. May have been committed in secret, but it affects many. Ishmael is a thorn in the flesh to Abraham and Sarah. Hagar, thorn in the flesh. Self-induced. Self-inflicted, but a thorn nonetheless. Abraham and Sarah, with their sin, they caused a division, the Ishmaelites and the Jewish people, that lasts to this very day. God told them what was going to happen, and they tried to make it happen in their way, their vision of how it should be done. Then Abraham and Sarah had to fix the problem so that the enemies of God could not laugh at God. The enemies of God could not blaspheme God because you didn't go after your guy. You let him do whatever he wanted. Well, why are you going after these people but not after your guy? You can't play favoritism. God can't. Cannot. So now we have an answer. When we ask ourselves, well, why doesn't God just tell me? This is why. Couple questions. Are we a cause for the enemies of God to blaspheme? It's a question we need to ask ourselves. Do we give the testimony and example we should? Question we need to ask ourselves. Are we a stumbling block to others? They caused Hagar to fall. They caused Hagar to run. They caused Hagar to want to end it all. They were a stumbling block to Hagar. And lastly, are we, the Christians of America, the Christians of today, the people of God, an embarrassment to Him? All valid questions. And in this account with Abram and Sarah, trying to make God's will happen, they destroyed some lives in the process. The witness and testimony that Abraham fell away in this moment. If it can happen to Abraham, can it not happen to everybody else? Especially today with all the temptations we have. It's time for us to consider the consequences of our actions.